episode of, I was about to say issue latest issue of, feels like a comic book though. Latest episode of the High Ground podcast. I am excited because I've been seeing a lot of this discussion around Mace Windu, around Anakin. I went and brought on some awesome people. We're going to talk about these Titans as well as the Jedi Order. And hopefully, if everyone has seen it at the end, we're going to talk some Book of Boba Fett. But yeah, we will get started right now on the High Ground. Hello, we are jumping into this like a bantha. How you guys doing? Oh man, I was like, I missed the cue. Like we didn't plan that, guys. That's
simultaneous.
It's awesome. But yeah, we're going to be jumping into this topic. If you guys hadn't noticed, I think Kenny, you're the only first time being on here. Not by my fault. I tried to get him on before. He told me no.
Yeah, that's all on me. That's all on me. I take full responsibility.
It's all good. But so I actually on the notes, I actually made a lot less notes because I just want us to chat, to flow, to feel it, kind of jump in. We're going to be talking about our boys, Anakin, Mace Windu, and then talking about kind of the Jedi as a whole. And
one of them, one of them was. I'm ride or die with Mace Windu. Anakin.
Well, we all right. Well, let's start by going around the room, and we're gonna ask, who are you? Where can we find you and your amazing content? And the question I'm asking this time is to pick an event or moment in Star Wars, replace one character in that moment. What changes? And to give you guys an idea, if I'll go first, just so you guys can get an idea of what type of thing I'm talking about.
I put some thought into this one. I feel like I've got a really good one.
Oh, okay. All right. So if you
rock it out, man, rock it out, go.
No, I was just saying because I didn't know if people would know kind of where I was going with that, but like if we take Return of the Jedi and then you have Leia standing in front of Vader at the end, and she threatens Luke, Vader's gonna die.
Double tap all the way.
She's not going to stop and be like, I'm a Jedi like my father. She's going to be like, I'm a senator like my father. And, I just...
But I don't think she kills him in anger. Like that's the other thing. Like, I think she would have been able to, like in the same way that a rabid animal is euthanized, I think she would be in that place.
No,
if Luke was in anger in that moment, I don't think Leia would have been.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say Leia would have been literally just putting the pin into Vader's side, just from the wording aspect. Just like you're not my dad. Sorry.
And then Anthony, I don't know if you were saying something. I didn't hear any sound.
That's because I'm an idiot and I left the mute on.
Well,
this entire time. And I'm an IT, which you couldn't tell.
Hey, it happens. I've been told I have a face like I do IT.
That's all right. I've been told I have a face for radio.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll jump around. We're going to go to Anthony first. Anyone in the chat, feel free to think about it. If you guys have ideas for your moment to switch a character and what would happen. But yeah, go for it.
That's tricky. So first of all, I am Anthony of Ready Comics Roll. You could find me on TikTok predominantly, but I'm also on here on YouTube as well. And even though I typically used to do Star Wars content, it's leaned more into horror and comedy. So that's more your thing, especially with slasher support. Shameless plug, go for that. But Star Wars stuff is coming back, and that's why I'm glad to be back on here talking Star Wars.
Absolutely.
But as far as a moment, what I would like to have seen, and I think would have been very interesting, especially how all of Star Wars history would have played out, is if it would have been Obi-Wan that went to face Maul during the Siege of Mandalore.
Oh,
I think
Ooh,
that would have been...
Damn, that's good.
Yeah. I honestly think it would have changed a lot. I definitely think... so there's a few characters that I really feel... And that's why it's great that we're talking about Anakin in his fall. Well, more than just that, but I do feel like if Obi-Wan was not there, it would have been a lot easier and more expeditious for Palpatine to enact his plan and kind of see that through. And also just for Obi-Wan to be facing off against Maul after everything that's happened, and then just the history that's shared between the two of them in that moment versus what we got later on in Rebels. Just to see, it would be interesting to see how Obi-Wan would react at that time.
Man, that's
a good one.
Let me turn that down a little bit. That's a good one because I can see so many possibilities. Like, I don't think Obi-Wan would fall to the dark side, but if there's ever a time and a place, it would be there, and then
that would be the ultimate test. Really.
Damn. Okay. Awesome. I like it.
That's a great choice. Great choice. I don't even know how any of us are going to top it. Oh, there it is.
All right.
Top it, I don't think, but I feel like it is the same tier and it's topical for what we're going to talk about tonight.
Perfect. And with that in mind, I'll go to Kenny next.
What's up, everybody? My name is Darthman86, Kenny for those who know me best. You can primarily find me on TikTok. Mostly all Star Wars, all Marvel content. I just got done doing several videos from No Way Home that I just recently watched over my anniversary. Been heavily trying to get more into Star Wars deep dives. But starting this Friday, I will have my very first podcast that I'm going to be doing myself on TikTok, not on YouTube, not on anything else, on TikTok, where I will be talking just mainly geek stuff. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be Supernatural, it can be Game of Thrones, it can be Marvel, DC, whatever sounds good at the topic at the moment in time. This will be just a pilot episode, but at the same time, I'm hoping that it'll be a good first round that'll continue. Topic will be Chapter 6, just like how we're going to be talking hopefully later tonight.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the question, I could not come up with a single thing until Anthony just mentioned that whole switcheroo. I would actually like Ahsoka being the one who challenged Anakin at Mustafar.
Yeah, the student going up against her. Could he?
And then she would be the one raising Luke and Leia instead of the other way around, or raising Luke.
Would he have been able to stop if it was her? There were so many things that Anakin just couldn't stop. And if it had been Ahsoka, or if Ahsoka had gone with him to check on Mace Windu and Palpatine, would he have been able to to stay because she was there?
It would be really interesting, and that literally just dropped in my head right now after Anthony dropped his. I'm just switching completely characters out, because I was thinking of just moments instead of just characters, but switching a character out would be a lot more devastating than just changing a moment up.
Yeah, I mean, after you say that, I partially just want my own EU where it's a TV show of the Organas raising both, and Ahsoka's the live-in nanny.
Leia would have been such a terror. It would be so funny to watch. Ahsoka, God, you were just like your dad and your mom at the same time. And
it just hurts.
It's a shame because I used to like them both.
Not in a good way. Now I understand why Master Kenobi got so frustrated with me.
I have Element 7 in chat saying, what if Quinlan Voss? If it was Quinlan Voss who went to face Maul. Just because Quinlan Voss has to be involved in everything. But
Mission complete.
And double tap. Here we go.
Oh, hey, we have Span Kenobi. How's it going, man? He's awesome content creator. If you're not following Span Kenobi, I always I appreciate this content. But yeah, last but certainly not least, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Master Allen.
I feel like I'm famous for hating Ponkrell and dunking on Anakin at this point.
Well, I mean, we're gonna get into it later, but
You got one of two.
I put out a tweet before this that says Ponkrell could walk so Anakin could run.
Oh my god! Oh, it's terrible, but it's true. Oh.
Am I wrong?
Yeah. So the group of Jedi that are sent to face Sidious. Anybody but Mace Windu. If we swap Mace Windu, with exception to, I think, Kenobi Yoda, if Kenobi and Yoda are off the table, it doesn't matter who we swap Mace Windu for. Now I'm having to lean on the book description a little bit more so than just the movie, because we don't get a whole lot of information about how the movie goes. But a key component to, oh, hey, look at that. Is that an iPad?
Tablet time.
Awesome. I love it. Way to go, bud. But if it's anybody other than Mace Windu, then Palpatine's got to, like, Palpatine wins so quick by accident that he's not in this limbo space where he needs Anakin to save his life. And so, like, the linchpin to Anakin making a bad decision is Palpatine being sort of stalemated and needing someone to rescue him. So he gets to play the victim to help Anakin make that one last justification to get him all the way over. If the person that's combating Sidious isn't good enough to get to that limbo, then Anakin's going to walk in, all the Jedi are dead, and now Sidious is the bad guy. It's done.
It's weird, but it's a weird threshold, but I totally get it. Like, Anakin walks in the door and he's cackling over a bunch of dead Jedi, and you're like, the hell? Like,
he's like, Anakin walks in and all this is happening.
Join me, and he's like,
no, this is gonna be great. We're gonna save Padme, and like there's just bodies, because there's 5 bodies at that point.
And he's just like, are we the baddies?
Because if Anakin doesn't show up, right? So if Anakin listens to Mace Windu, if Anakin doesn't show up, either Sidious isn't good enough to beat Mace Windu, which it's really unclear about that from both the movies and the books. The way the movie presents it, it seems like Sidious puts himself in that position on purpose and then holds that in stasis so that he gets to play the victim, which is a really bizarre plan, but Star Wars is loaded with bizarre plans. So, like,
it's one of those movie plots that the villain has that it's like, this shouldn't work. There's no way you really were putting this much.
The opening act of Return of the Jedi is just a ridiculously bad plan, but it's fun to watch. Like,
it's like when you're beating someone at Street Fighter and they play Guile, and so they start turtling, and you're like, oh, and you're just like, I will stand here and let us time out. Like,
this is gonna take forever. and so the book description of Mace Windu in that fight, I don't know that Mace Windu needed Anakin's help to finish the job.
The book description was like, Mace is like, man, he's giving me so much energy, I'm not even fatigued.
The problem is we don't know how much, because we're getting that entirely from Mace Windu's point of view, so we don't know how much of that is Palpatine rope-a-doping him.
Yes. Now, I will say from the
I'm inclined to believe that Mace would have whooped him. but that's
what it seems like. Even in the movie, like seeing how that fight played out, it maybe could have gone either way, but then Mace had the upper hand, and it just so happened that
like the longer Sidious is there like that, like eventually he's going to get too tired to keep doing it.
Yeah. But then it feels like when Anakin walked in, he's kind of oh, this is perfect. This is kind of what I wanted it to play out.
No, from the director commentary, it makes it sounds. George Lucas makes it seem like the intention was for Mace Windu to beat him, but the actual battle was never for martial superiority. It was for control of Anakin.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's awesome. I like it.
We had 3 good ones. We had 4
good ones. He was planning on his predictability.
Yeah. But I like Poe going to find Luke. Not that it'd be successful, but him talking about the stories from his mom and letting him know it. His mom, Shara Bay, if you haven't read Shattered Empire, yeah, they're good friends, and I know I would like to see that relationship kind of develop a little bit more. That would have been really cool.
Rey was not in a position to give Luke much of a guilt trip.
Yeah.
Like not a specific guilt trip, it was more a general guilt trip. Poe could have given him like a specific, like a very pointed guilt trip. That would have been grandma guilt trip. That would have been tough.
That's why you had to have R2 and Chewie there.
Yeah.
To
look at him judgingly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Element 7 says, hey, zoning is a perfectly valid fighting game tactic. It is if you're a punk. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I mean, if you're not good enough to win outright, like just say that. Element, I love you. I have a tremendous amount of respect for you. That was talking a little bit of trash, but I don't want you to think that I actually believe anything negative about it.
No, I also like the game I get competitive with is Smash Brothers, and I don't know if you've ever
Smash.
I don't know if you've ever fought someone that plays Sonic. They only win by timeout, and you're like, it's a valid way to win, but at what cost? Like you make people not want to play anymore, you know?
I've honestly never seen a battle in Smash Bros. Won that way, like ever in my life. I can't believe
I will say,
so that
100% of them
that plays Sonic must be really
are Sonic games. There was talk of banning the character because people were just like, oh my god, just yeah.
Well, that's the kind of thing too. Like if it's by timeout and the other person is the one that's stalling, even if you win, you're mad. If you lose, you're mad. If you win, you're mad. Like that kind of like a game that goes like that because it's so frustrating. Which is also probably what it's like to fight Kenobi. Like
true. Yeah. No, that's the Kenobi and the Spider-Man tactic largely, and so that's why I want a Marvel Star Wars crossover where it's Anakin, where it's Obi-Wan and Spider-Man, because they would have the best banter ever.
It'd be one-liners for days.
So much sass. Could Anakin beat Mace Windu? I mean, does anybody think that there would be like serious betting on that fight?
I would.
Yeah.
And I would give it to Spider-Man all day. Like, don't underestimate any of them. Gwen, Parker, Miles.
I'm jumping on. Element tossed a question into chat, which is, what if Mace had already dusted Palpatine, and so then he's got to fight Anakin? Could Mace Windu fight Anakin?
Because I would definitely give the W to Mace, but if he had just fought Palpatine, you know what I mean? Like if you had just,
he's not fighting at 100%. Like he went through a fight. Okay.
So,
but at the same time, we're dealing with a highly skilled fighter. We're not dealing with somebody who's just mediocre mid-tier. Not like Obi-Wan. Like him or Anakin and Obi-Wan were basically the same fighter. And if you watch that last whole part of episode 3, like they were basically even until Obi got the high ground.
Well, and also like Anakin's a very aggressive style, and Kenobi's a very patient style, and Mace Windu's a little bit more in between. But so having this may segue us into our next thing. So there are two sword styles. There are two families of sword style. This is one of the ways that you can categorize samurai sword training. You have Satsujin Ken, and you have Katsujin Ken. And Satsu is very yang, it's very Sith. I am going to make what I want happen. I'm going to overwhelm my opponent. I am, through my will, this victory shall be mine. I don't care if there are 100 people between me and the door. I am getting through the door. There may not be a lot of me left at that point, but I am getting through the door. And Katsujin Ken is the exact opposite. I am standing in front of the door entirely by myself. There are 100 people that want to get through it, and not a single one is going to touch the doorknob. And there may not be a whole lot of me left when the last one falls, but every single one of them that tries is going to drop. And both Kenobi and Mace Windu's style would be described as Katsujin Ken. If a Satsu style is going to beat a Katsu style, they need to be smart enough and patient enough not to end their own existence. And if we are going to describe Anakin as anything, it is not those things.
It's patient and methodical.
That's why
Patient, methodical, not overconfident in himself. Like, those are things that we say about Anakin. And it's anybody that checks all of the boxes that Anakin checks, they get whooped in those sorts of
I can't wait for the next topic.
instinct just brings them right into their own demise.
Unless they're an anime protagonist.
Yes.
Plot armor is a powerful armor.
But Ollie says, unpopular opinion, I feel Mace's propensity to falling towards the dark side is almost as low as Obi-Wan's. Mace had strict personal morals. And I do agree with that. But we're going to get to that. So first I want to jump into Anakin. And just, get the panel's feelings on the character. I love me some Anakin. I'm not a Stanikin. I see the faults and things, but loving the character. And yeah, how do you feel about it? I'll go to Kenny first.
Personally, unlike the man to my right over here, I love Anakin, and everything that I love about him shows in Ahsoka. Like, he was a great mentor, a great teacher. Yes, he has faults. Yes, he has problems. And we as a fan base can argue back and forth all day about Anakin all day. But at the end of the day, he raised Ahsoka.
And Ahsoka is Anakin who can say, I was wrong.
Yes.
If you took Anakin and wrung him out, and put him in like a centrifuge, all the good parts are Ahsoka.
100%. 100%. And because like Ahsoka is in many ways the good parts of Kenobi and the good parts of Anakin, right? Like,
Yeah.
That's and when you look at her archetype and stuff like that, no, I totally get it. I understand. I'm with you. I agree.
Yeah,
Right.
like as far as Anakin, like from your perspective, I completely get it. I watch every single one of those Anakin dissing videos, and you get the point. Like, you 100% get it. He's not a good character, not a good guy. However,
he's not a good person. He's a great character.
Good of a person, Ahsoka would have not turned out the way she did. Not even close. Sure, she had Plo Koon. Sure, she had Obi-Wan. She had several other masters. But Anakin was the number one.
Yeah.
Was the mentor.
Oh, yeah.
He's very much the parent that will, like, I will go through hell and back for my child, regardless of what I have to do.
And that too, like, if Ahsoka was the one fighting Anakin on Mustafar, I think that's what it would have taken for him to take a step back and realize, like, the atrocities he committed at that point. Because he was very different with her than he was with basically any other character in the show.
See, because I was going to make the argument about, Obi-Wan being like a brother to him, but I think it was more Obi-Wan viewed Anakin as a brother than Anakin really ever saw him He probably viewed more, or at least from dialogue we gotten throughout Clone Wars and even through the movies, he was more of just like a father figure, or maybe more like a father figure to Anakin in his eyes, looking at Obi-Wan. So I agree with you. I think Ahsoka, it's a different dynamic, because that was one of the things I was thinking of when Kenny brought up switching out the characters. So I'm like, but could Ahsoka really be the one to get him to see that? And then the more we talk about it, the more it seems like it's a possibility. Because there's good there. I mean, obviously we've seen him go from being Vader back to Anakin again. Like, yeah, he's not a great person, but he does have the potential to be if he could just get over himself.
If he quit whining for 5 seconds.
If he'd had the self-awareness to talk to people about the insecurity he was experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's like, I've seen a couple of different things. Like, Ahsoka was able to rise above the wrongs committed to her, and I think that was a really good line. And obviously that was Element 7. Core Gamer, whom generally speaking I really respect, said Anakin isn't a bad person, he's just an idiot. He brought a weapon into a school. There's one way we can talk about that. He brought a weapon into a school. At a certain point, like once we get to that is one of the problems where if we talk about Anakin as a person rather than as a metaphor, like we run into that moment, Master Skywalker, there's too many of them, what are we going to do? That moment, we can't make apologies for Anakin as a person anymore. We can't say yeah but anymore. We can't. If there was a historical figure from our own planet that had an action like that, and you opened up talking about that person focused on their trauma instead of focused on where that went horribly wrong, there's nobody on the internet that would take you seriously. Like if you opened up with, no, but if that art school had just admitted him, nobody is going to take that video seriously, and anybody that does is not somebody you want in your comment.
It's sad because there are videos like that exist in real life when it comes to certain people, and it's sad.
And
I love that you use the whole school analogy, because I'm like, wait a minute, the school openly admits to having weapons. Like there are grown-ass people going around wielding laser swords.
Am I a terrible person though that when you mention the whole school thing, that I'm just imagining Anakin going like, "Life is like a hurricane." He just like he has to detach himself from that moment. Yeah, like there's no way like you could just go into that.
Oh my god.
So I wanted to then get to, because like this is something that we've sort of hinted around. So if you have a student that's having trouble getting stuff, because I've had a lot of experience with that over the years. I have met a lot of Anakins that aren't toxic, because you get that in the martial arts world, because you have a lot of young people in the like late teens to early 20s, and there's a whole lot of that archetype where there's some overlap. Don't stop me now. That's Chris. That's horrible. That's perfect for a second. All right. But so there's three things you can do as an educator, because you can't make somebody get it. You can explain it to them, but you can't understand it for them. And we see these three processes happen with Anakin and Revenge of the Sith. Yoda, you can make a space for them to come and talk to you about what they don't get, what they do get, what their questions are, and whatever, but you can't make them use it. So you can make a space that they can come into, and it's up to them to stay. Anakin didn't stay. You can meet them where they are. And so you can go to them, you can meet them where they are, you can sort of be in the same situations they are. This is what Kenobi did. And you can do what Mace Windu did, which is set a boundary. Because at a certain point, if a student isn't honest with you, has not listened to what you have instructed them to do, is doing things that you don't agree with but aren't necessarily severe enough that you need to like boot them from the school, you set a boundary, and this is as close as I am going to get to you. This is as close as I am going to allow you to get to me. I'm going to be professional. I'm not going to be warm necessarily, and you probably know why. And at some point, it'll click for you, and you'll be able to approach me as an adult who takes adult actions and accepts adult responsibility rather than wanting adult perks without having to be a responsible adult. And like and those three things like we see in Revenge of the Sith, and they're like those are the things you can do when you got a student that doesn't want to get it.
That's interesting because I don't have kids or students.
I've been teaching for really long.
But when Suki starts acting up, sometimes that can get tough. Yeah, and I make her stay outside until she pees. So it's roughly the same, I think, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Having dogs is a lot like having kids. It's just less expensive.
Yeah. Okay. So as we said, Star Wars lawyer said, Anakin situations singing "Don't Stop Me Now." My question is Grogu singing "I'm a survivor, I'm not gonna give up"? I'm just thinking.
I think he was still very young around that time, so he's probably singing Baby Shark.
Rescue Me. Help by the Beatles, also a good one.
Help! I need someone. Help!
Well, I want to thank Master Allen for the final piece I needed for an edit that I will be posting tomorrow. So
I can't wait to see it now. I don't know which song you picked, but
thank you. All right. All right. So that being said, real quick, lightning round. Anakin, Vader, 2 people, 1 person.
Same person. The same person.
Whoa.
All right. We're all in agreement. And Kenny's room became sentient.
If Anakin and Vader are 2 people, the lesson that Anakin is supposed to teach gets invalidated, in my opinion.
So much of it just gets wiped away. All accountability, the lesson that's meant to be there, all of it just gone. The redemption, what redemption if they're 2 different people?
The thing
Anakin didn't do anything wrong if they're 2 different people. And also the last time we saw Anakin was like Phantom Menace.
That's true. And the thing I think that throws most people is we are watching Star Wars. Like these are these movies where we are here and there's a stream of time and we can jump in at any point in time. But like, sure, Vader and Anakin have very different personalities. I say Vader and Anakin, but like it's 20 years apart. They're the difference is the difference of a single person who's lived for 20 years after making like a really big life-changing decision. You know what I mean?
And there are a couple of comments that just jumped up that this is also one of the places where this conversation gets bogged down in places. So Vader is the character like Batman. That example is a terrible example because Bruce Wayne refers to himself as Batman. And so Anakin doesn't exist. Anakin's a costume. And so that's the video I said earlier where it's like, no. Anakin was a psychopath the whole time. Vader was who he really was, and Anakin was the mask. So their character implies separate identities. Okay. And so somebody said personality, separate identities, character, separate identities. Persona is the word that is a single person that adjusts how they behave depending on company. Because like I've got my TikTok persona and then I've got, my dad and Master Allen and all this stuff. Well, you adjust your sliders a little bit like it's a video game. Right. And so persona is like, if we talk about Batman and Bruce Wayne, persona. We talk about Anakin is the person, Vader is the personality. If Vader's a personality, then Anakin doesn't have awareness of what Vader's doing.
That's similar to how Green Goblin is in No Way Home.
Or
So the one thing I want to bring up, Master Allen. So would you say that people kind of miss the point in the story of Anakin and Vader in the same way that people kind of miss the point of Jack and Tyler Durden of Fight Club?
Ooh.
That is not a Venn diagram. That is a stack of pancakes.
That's what I'm saying. Do you feel like
I felt cold when you said it. It was like, ooh.
That's not a Venn diagram. It's a stack of pancakes.
I'm actually glad to be here because you got like Kenny in favor of Anakin. You have Master Allen against Anakin. I'm like the Bendu, somewhere in the middle.
And I do want to clarify because I dunk on Anakin a lot. Anakin is a marvelous character. He's incredibly compelling. The lesson that he teaches is great. My frustration with Anakin is not about Anakin. It's about people that watched Anakin and blame the Jedi. And it's like, no, that's not.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna stop you there. We're gonna come back.
We will get to that.
And then also, Kenny, I don't want you to feel like anyone's dogpiling on you or anything like that. We're just, you know what I mean? All right, perfect. But we will get to the point. But Anakin is Walter White. Anyhow, let's talk about Mace Windu. That's about Mace Windu. I'll go to Anthony first. First.
So at least in
I let the
regards
Junker go last. That's you this time.
So at least from what we get from the movies, I would say I agree with the assessment that Master Allen gives in a lot of ways. I do feel like sometimes he's a little bit stubborn. I feel like if Anakin and Mace Windu were to actually sit there and get to know one another, or even like it was said earlier in the chat, if Anakin were to just truly be shadowing under Mace Windu for even a day or even a while, it'd be amazing to see how much they could actually bond, I believe, and how much Anakin can kind of see, yeah, maybe I am kind of being an idiot. I feel like there's a level of discipline that he's kind of been missing under other mentors. I definitely think it would affect his training. And what's most heartbreaking to me is there was kind of that moment in Revenge of the Sith where you kind of feel like Mace is really kind of trying to put out that olive branch when he's like, hey, listen, just stay here, please. And what you say is true. You know, I'm going to handle it. And I feel in my heart of hearts, and a lot of other people have said this as well, that if he just would have stayed put and it all would have played out and Mace would have taken care of Palpatine and he would have came back, he probably would have finally been given the rank of master. They probably would have been like, for what you did, you know, you shown discipline, you know, big speech.
You helped make this
happen. Your place.
Yeah,
I do feel like there was times where again, just from the movies, you kind of see that a little bit more in the Clone Wars, but I really feel like Clone Wars fleshed out the character of Mace Windu a lot more, where he did seem a little bit hard on Anakin, but at the same time, it's like, because he kind of needed that.
Anakin was a tiny machine that disobeyed orders and committed war crimes, and like disobeyed Mace Windu a lot.
Well, and that's why I'm obsessed with the concept of perspective. Like who the story's perspective is just drastically changes the outcome. Because I mean, I feel like the most direct relation to Mace Windu is Sergeant Dokes. If you watched Dexter, the show, and you hate Dokes. Dokes is a dick, and you're like, but he's right. You're mad because he's right. You're mad because he sees through you.
And
you're like, I hate you.
What does Dokes do that's like? What does Dokes do that's wrong?
Nothing. It's just the mindset of it.
Like Dokes doesn't do anything illegal. Dokes does it's, you know, like Dokes doesn't violate Dexter's civil rights in the process of figuring it out. Like he's
just very brash, and then that's very off-putting to a lot of people when people can be just that real and that direct. And I think that's kind of what happens with Mace, and I think that's why a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, Mace is the bad guy." Don't even get me started on the whole Gray Jedi thing, because the funny thing is, I'm actually one of the people that love the concept of Gray Jedi, and even though I'm never going to be like, oh well, it's absolutely in canon, I even made a whole like breakdown of it. And the one question that always irks me is, do you feel Mace Windu is a great Jedi? And I'm like, no, I don't get how people come to that conclusion. Even being a big fan of the concept myself, that's not a person I would ever even put in that realm of possibility.
He would be such a dick to a Grey Jedi if he ever met one. It would be hilarious.
Pick a side.
X-Core Gamer Skills says Dokes is also very similar to Dexter in the books, and because I've always thought that Mason and Anakin share some similarities. But my next question is: there's Dexter books?
It was based on books, dude.
I did not know that.
If you really enjoyed the show Dexter, the books are a very different experience because you know how the show there's like a lot of external interaction and there's a little bit of like the voiceover. The books are a lot more heavily influenced by the voiceover, so you're basically having to sit inside a serial killer's head for most of the books instead of getting to get out of it, and so it's a very different.
Interesting.
Some people really enjoy that. That's not my thing. I'm just gonna go ahead and just acknowledge that it's not my thing. I like it when the good guys win.
Typically I do as well, but I feel like we're jumping around a lot. But if you haven't watched Death Note, watch Death Note. Yeah. So for me, the character of and I've just chosen. I'm just gonna go. I know I'm not gonna forget you guys. So, but I've always loved Mace Windu, and not just because he was the first Black Jedi that I saw. Not gonna lie, that is absolutely part of it. You know, I always talk about when I played Star Wars at school, and I'd be like, "I'm Luke," and all the kids would be like, "No, you're not. You could be Chewbacca, though."
I did the same thing where I'm like, okay, Samuel L. Jackson's in Star Wars. He's not that interesting. Purple lightsaber. You are now my new favorite god. I worship the ground you step on.
That was me with Plo Koon. And that's still me with Plo Koon.
My lightsaber. Which one's yours? The one that has the inscription that says "Bad mother."
Oh. We gotta start talking about Jedi like they're athletes because there's a tie-in.
I'm gonna tell that to Josh Mace Windu, and hopefully we'll get some. We can make him do some like Sports Center Jedi content.
Mace Windu is KG. So there's a story. So as a Celtics fan, I didn't really appreciate Kevin Garnett until he was a Celtic, and then I found this out about Kevin Garnett. And so Kevin Garnett. For those of you that this is all sports ball talk, but this is an anecdote about a human being and has nothing to do with sports ball. So ready? Here we go. When KG would like first meet a teammate, like when rookies would get drafted and stuff like that, he would offer to buy him a suit. And so he would say, "Come on out, I'm going to buy you a suit." And this was it. This was your chance. And so if you went with him and went through that process with him, he was going to buy you a suit, a nice suit. It was going to get tailored. It was going to be stylish. It was going to be, to your style, but also like with stylists to help you understand what is actually going to look good rather than what you think is going to look good, all that kind of stuff. If you accepted this and followed him on the bridge, then KG would take you under his wing and teach you about being a professional basketball player, because it is not like being a really good high school player. It is not like being a really good college player. Average NBA careers are less than 5 years, and KG played a very, very long time. And so this was something that he did for young players, where it's like, these are things you got to do. It's not just about managing your money. Like if you can't live 1 year on an NBA salary, you're not going to be able to live the rest of your life on it. All this kind of stuff. Like,
yeah, it's about drive. It's about power.
It's just incredibly competitive person and all this kind of stuff. Like take care of your body, take care of your money, like all this stuff.
Hang on one quick moment.
You can bring somebody in?
It hasn't fully connected yet.
It's coming.
Okay, never mind. Keep going. If it pops up.
But if you didn't take it, that was it. He wasn't going to be rude to you. He was not going to be mean to you. But there was nothing. There was not mentorship. There was nothing. You were going to get nothing from him. He was not going to treat you poorly. He was going to be professional. But and that is how we see Mace Windu treat Anakin, which for the amount of times that Anakin goes, okay, Master Windu, I understand those are my orders. I'm going to not do them. And then after I don't do them, I'm going to explain why I shouldn't be held responsible for not doing what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And like everything about that is Mace Windu being like, all right, kid, you don't belong in the big league. Like you're not ready to be a pro. And it's like, it's not personal. It's nothing against you. Look, it frustrates me a little bit, but like, you're not ready. And that's what it is.
I love that you put it like that, especially after I just got done reading Dark Disciple, and it's quite the opposite. He doesn't acknowledge what he did to Voss. He doesn't acknowledge that what he
do to Voss.
Have you not read Dark Disciple?
What did he do to Voss? Did he bully Voss, or did Voss do something he wasn't supposed to do? Every time people try to put stuff at Mace Windu's feet, it actually turns out it's the other person's fault. So you explain to me what he did to Voss, and that will tell me whether or not it's
the intention. They chose Voss because of how well he is with the underworld, how well he is as a person. Okay. So when Mace decided, hey, we're just going to go ahead and 86 Dooku and not take responsibility, because they all agreed on Voss, with him being the first one, both on the idea of assassination and the idea of using Voss. Nothing. Like, he felt like he did nothing wrong. Even when Kenobi, later in the book, almost towards the end of the book, actually, told everybody, we have to take responsibility. In the book, Mace just kind of rolled his eyes a little bit. And you're just like, what are you doing?
Take responsibility for what? Take responsibility for an assassination attempt. Take responsibility.
And then real quickly, Coyote, can you hear me? Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you guys hear me?
Woo-hoo.
We can hear you, can't see you. So if you're on your PC, I don't know if you already have like OBS or something like that open that's taking up your camera. But yeah, we can't see.
I'm on my phone right now.
Oh.
I can try to get on my computer if my Wi-Fi works. But my Wi-Fi is slower than my phone signal, so I figured that would probably be a worse bet.
No, that's cool. We'll have you as a black square, and we'll have you continue. But
may I jump in when there's a break in the conversation, though, because I have a lot to say about this topic, and I'm on a roll with Mace Windu right now, but I will let you guys continue. I don't want to jump in and interrupt.
That's fine.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, we'll let Kenny and Anthony or Comics Roll finish, and then you can jump in and give us your thoughts.
And so, Kenny, I am hearing you out. What is it that the Jedi need to take responsibility for? And so Kenobi says we need to take responsibility for this. Which aspect of it? Because like an assassination attempt on Dooku, killing in anger is the thing that Jedi are not supposed to do. You don't have to kill in anger. But
when you're going up against a serial Sith like Dooku, you cannot be a Jedi. And this book was, as a lot of people, and I think it was also you or Element, said that this is a cautionary tale of why Jedi have to stay on a certain path.
I think that was Element. I remember seeing that video.
Yeah. So even from the initiation, when Mace was the first one who said it, that I think it's time for assassination, the entire room's mindset switched.
Yeah.
Everybody, including Yoda, with Obi-Wan being the only one saying, "What? We're not doing this."
Well,
the only one outspoken about it.
It also comes back to when we have the moment with him and Palpatine, where he's like, he's too dangerous to be left alive. I mean, he was right.
Yeah, he's right. I'm not unjustifying the assassination attempt. It's the fact that he won't take responsibility for it, for knowing that it failed and almost ruined the Jedi.
So that's, I guess, another thing I want to bring up. So we talk about how Mace can come off as brash to people because he is unapologetically himself, and but I think another thing that actually that whole discussion of that comes up when in regards to Anakin. Alan brought up a good point about he'll disobey orders, but then he won't try and be like, all right, I disobeyed orders, I screwed up, so on. But at the same time, I feel that's where Mace sometimes is a little bit too by the book. That's where, like, I brought the whole thing where sometimes he's a little bit stubborn, because as we've seen, yes, disobeying orders bad, but sometimes it ends up yielding the results that you are looking for. Like in the event of like when Ahsoka ends up disobeying orders, and that's why there's the whole joke of like, I'm just being just like my master. Or even like, or Obi-Wan would sometimes disobey orders during Clone Wars, and he'll be like, oh, I learned it from you, like, or you're a bad influence, is what he'll say to Anakin. And sometimes it works out in that favor, but then to his character, that's something that Mace Windu always end up being upset about. I feel like sometimes he is a little bit too by the book.
Absolutely, but like, and I love that it's the character flaws that make the character
exactly.
And so, Coyote, there's a little bit for you to catch up if you wouldn't mind, real quick. Yeah, go ahead and hit us with your thoughts, but also let us know where we can find you and your content.
Okay. Well, I'll start with the content because that's a little bit easier. I'm Coyote1701 on TikTok, and I have an Instagram that I'm really on. But it's been kind of crashing recently. My views have tanked, which is really annoying, but is what it is.
The constant shrug.
Yeah. I mean like 130 views have crashed.
Yeah, it's rough.
But so at 10,000 followers, it doesn't make sense, but it is what it is. So my thoughts on Mace Windu are as follows. So I understand where you guys are coming from, and I get that it was a council decision as a whole. It was not just Mace Windu saying, nope, this is what's going to happen, because the council did vote. And I do agree with you, Alan, that there is a way to do things, and that you can do it justified. Like, there is a reason that some people just their lives are forfeit. And I get that. If it is an adjustment, it's like, hey, this guy, I can't take him as prisoner because of these reasons. He has killed this many people and responsible for the death of this many people. He needs to just be done. I get that. But that's not, from when I read the book by Matthew Stover, that's not where I saw Mace Windu's mindset in him versus Palpatine at all. And he volunteered Quinlan Vos, which, don't get me wrong, he's the perfect candidate for that task of killing Dooku, considering that he was kind of their deep cover guy. That's what he did. But it seemed like he was so quick to just turn on him. It's like he's dark side. Okay, he's gotta die now. Period. Mace Windu, in my mind, thinks very much like a Sith exterminator, or a Sith Terminator, rather than a Jedi Master. So he sees Sith, he sees red, that's it. There's no questions asked, because he was so quick to put a hit on Quinlan Vos. Doesn't matter what he's done in the past, or how good he's been to the Order, and how much good he's done for the Jedi, or how clean his record has been. He's like, nope, he's a Sith now. He's got to die. I don't care if we could probably save him. He's got to die. Obi-Wan's going to make it happen. And it just felt like it was so quick to turn tail.
Real quick, but Benali points out Obi-Wan was the one that volunteered Quinlan, but Mace did start the conversation.
But so the counterpoint to it being very quick, that it's like, all right, we got to eliminate that guy. If you have somebody that has had access to the highest level clearance and they get flipped by some type of a foreign asset, you don't have a very long time to eliminate them. Like, that is a very short timeline kind of an action that you have to take.
Well, I would say, I mean, kind of the way I hear it and took it myself is in the films, Dooku defended, like Mace defended Dooku. He's like, Dooku's a Jedi, or was a Jedi. He couldn't be doing this stuff. And then Dooku killed trillions of people and like billions of refugees. So it wasn't charitable, but there's like
to Mace Windu's grace there, he did see Dooku as a fallen Jedi, not a Sith. He saw Quinlan as a Sith. There is a difference there.
Mm-hmm.
There's different writers that interpreted characters different ways so that they could tell the story they wanted to tell with the metaphor that they wanted to tell.
Also, I want to say thanks to Jedi Master DePaul, the $5 ramen drop. Always appreciate you.
Oh, thanks.
DePaul, I know you haven't been feeling well. Hope you and your family are doing good. That's all I can say. But sorry, keep going, Coyote. I apologize.
No, that I just want to make that distinction to his credit. As much as I don't like Mace Windu, I will give that to his credit. That Dooku was seen as a fallen Jedi, but not a Sith per se. They knew that Quinlan had, or they suspected / thought that he had fallen to the dark side.
Yeah.
Which is a key difference there. Succumbing to the dark side that does corrupt and overwhelm people is different than like, okay, I don't like the Order anymore. That's a big difference.
I haven't read the book, so I have no like skin in the game here.
Oh, you haven't read The Disciple yet?
I am really trying to get into actually reading things other than comic books. I barely even have time for comic books. And those are pictures with words.
Dad life.
Dad life. I did it on Audible. It was a phenomenal narrative.
I got you.
But in regards to what I'm hearing between this conflict, I do find it a little bit interesting if that is the case, that Mace would immediately turn around and be like, oh no, Quinlan's got to go. Because he was willing to originally, when they found out that Palpatine was the Sith Lord, the secret Sith Lord, he was originally willing to just bring him in. So if that's true, that came out. But then again, what Master Allen said and what I was pointing out before, it's funny when you have the overlapping different kinds of media. When you have different authors trying to tell different stories, they are going to tell things. I mean, it's the same like in Marvel comics. You have different people writing Peter Parker and so on. But that is an interesting point to bring up.
Yeah, and then for anyone else in the chat, if you haven't read the book Dark Disciple yet, highly recommend it.
Especially for a first book.
Yeah, it's a great first book. It was intended to be released as an arc in the Clone Wars. Of course, Clone Wars got canceled. Like that. But yeah, so it's a canon story, and
it's by Katie Lucas, the daughter of George Lucas, mind you.
Yeah, and so in the context of it, as Benali points out with the prologue, there was a lot of people who were unalived, which forced them to make a difficult decision of like, you know what, this guy needs to be put down because we've had this capture order for the past 2.5 years, 3 years.
And how it reads on how quick they came to that decision. That's why, for me, and how I got my 1,000 followers from my one video for just the straight slander of his name. It blew my mind.
Since I read the book, I've been on his kick.
Yeah, so I've never read a book in my life as far as Star Wars content, period. This was the first book that I got into, and I could not put it down. And there was so much mind-opening, because for me, I see Mace, I'm thinking, okay, he's just a badass general. He's just a cool Jedi. He's right there. He's in the moment. He's kind of like a harder Qui-Gon Jinn. Like, he knows what he's doing. You just don't mess with the guy. I read this book, and I'm like, whoa, where did this military tactic come from? Mm-hmm. Where was this? This was never in Clone Wars. This was never in any of the movies. Wasn't even Clone Wars, that.
It wasn't Clone Wars, because look at how he addressed Ahsoka when she left the Order, even while she was still in the Order, and Anakin. Like, prime example, in Clone Wars Season 7, Ahsoka literally hands Maul over on a silver platter. And
Thank you,
his
civilian.
whole thing is like, sorry, citizen, this is Jedi business. Like, dude, you don't have to, like, I get not having confidential information. I fully understand that, but you don't got to be a dick.
That was cool.
I don't know that he was being a jerk though. Like, the problem is, at that point, she has been lying for Anakin for years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, years. Like, and so like when we see Mace Windu not have patience for Ahsoka, it is a function of Rex and Ahsoka have been covering up Anakin's bullshit for a really long time. Like a really long time. And we can't pretend that there aren't indicators of Anakin's toxicity in the Clone Wars unless we don't watch the Clone Wars.
Yeah, but I mean, we're also responsible for our own responses to things. I mean, it's an understandable response. But...
Well, I mean, there's a couple people in the chat who's pointing out, Julie Christine.
I love her.
And
that's.
She's got a couple of really good ones in that thread.
I say the moment we committed to fighting, we already lost. That one's just.
Yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, this is that old Pixar short where Palpatine's playing chess with himself, and the Jedi are these pawns, and there's limited amounts of blame you can place on the pawns themselves, but and not to cut you off too much, but like she did say, I'm just a citizen herself after. I mean, and she is a private citizen.
No, she
that they gave lightsabers to and a military task force, and they invaded a neutral system and deposed the rightful ruler. There's red flags all
now
over.
When you say it like that,
well, and there's nobody in the Clone Wars that doesn't commit war crimes.
Oh yeah,
nobody commits war crimes in the first episode. Anakin's terrible.
Committing war crimes left, right, and center, like faking surrender. But no.
Obi-Wan too. First episode. False flag.
Yeah, every character commits war crimes in the Clone Wars, and some of it is narrative. Some of it is because it's easier to not explain what war crimes are to teenagers and kids because that's the target audience. Like that, so that's part of it. But like one of the things that's challenging about talking about Star Wars characters is that depending on which media you're talking about, you have to talk about them in different ways. Because like in the movies were made before any of the supporting material existed. So it's really hard to talk about the movies with the supporting material.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way that like when you talk about the sequels, it's really hard to talk about Force Awakens and The Last Jedi with The Rise of Skywalker, because when they were made, The Rise of Skywalker was intended to be different. And so it's like, comparing apples to apples. So like in the movies, it's really easy to talk about the kid. That is such a good line, Chris. Holy crap, man. That is a good line. Well, in the movies, it's really hard to talk about any of the characters as people. Like, because they all have like sort of a narrative archetype that they are filling the boots of. Like everybody's a trope.
Yeah.
And so like
as
every
much as I love
for...
Mace, he is the exact same character of just like the Black Authority figure character that you see all the time. You know what I mean? Like if you were to turn on the Justice League cartoon, like Mace Windu is Jon Stewart in that cartoon. Yeah. There's no difference between the characters.
Never even thought about it that way.
And the relationship between Mace Windu and Anakin is the World War II movie trope of like the lieutenant or the captain or whatever. Like it's the superior officer and the guy that's on the ground. And the guy that's on the ground is really talented at what he is, and he thinks he can do the commander's job better. Like that is Mace Windu and Anakin's relationship as well.
So Star Wars is Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
That was Poe and Holdo.
Now, can you just add Andy Sandberg as Anakin?
Very talented, reckless, does his own
incredibly talented,
thing.
Reckless, insecure, looking for external approval from a father figure. Like,
but he'd be like
gets the girl that's literally
I don't like that makes so much sense. He's like the positive
flip though. He's like if you just went down a different path instead of that darker one. It's the same.
Well, we watch his character in that show get more equipped to talk about his insecurity, whereas Anakin hides his insecurity more and more as the story progresses, and that's why Anakin collapses. Like that's the difference between them.
Because he was so insecure that he was afraid of being judged for having those insecurities, so it kind of compounded on itself. Whereas like I can't talk about it because I'm insecure, the more insecure I am, the less I can talk about things. Therefore, the less secure I am.
And the cycle goes. And he's
So
working so
that-
hard to not let people find out that he doesn't realize everybody knows.
Hmm.
Like everybody
Well,
can
also,
tell
in
he's
fairness,
got
I would
problems.
too, he's trying to save face because, courtesy of Palpatine, he's a literal war hero. Like, it's all over the holonet, the things that Anakin and Obi-Wan and Ahsoka have done. Like, he's made sure that crap gets broadcasted to make him this public figure, putting more pressure on him again.
Yeah. No,
The
I
Jedi's fault.
I love it. All right, so here's my lightning question. And I'm going to start with you, Coyote, and you can also give us your thoughts on Anakin in general, and then go into answering the question, and we'll all just kind of answer it fast. But what rule change does the Jedi need? Like, what would you switch up? You know.
If I could change one thing about the Jedi Council, like the Jedi Order, is that what you mean?
Yeah. So give us your thoughts on Anakin, and then what you would change about the council.
So, in my opinion, Anakin is, I like the idea of the character. I really do. I like the what they want us to see, especially from like the movies and everything. But the more you know about the character, the more I want to smack him in the back of the head like Leroy Jethro Gift does. Because, like, dude, just sit back and think for a freaking second. Think about what you're doing, and does it really make sense? No? Okay, then you probably shouldn't do it. Like, there's just so much of that it gets on my nerves, but it's relatable and understandable, so I get it. And that's the destiny of that character, so it kind of has to go that way. But as far as what I could change about the Council, or the Jedi Order, it would definitely be their approach to the dark side. Here's what I mean by that. So I relate their approach to the dark side much like, this is a very American answer, so I'm sorry, but this is my answer to it. Teaching people about weapons, whether it be firearms or bladed. Teaching them about weapons. Teach them the dangers of it. Teach them what it is and how it works, so they can have a full understanding of it and how to properly be cognizant of it. If you understand a thing, you can better defend against a thing and know what you're looking for, know what those key signs are, more than just be mindful of your emotions. Okay, cool, but like how and why? But if you just like try to hide it and say, stay away from that, stay away from that, stay away from that, people are going to have that natural curiosity and that propensity to gravitate towards it just to find out what it is. If nothing else, just to satisfy that curiosity. If you educate them on it and give them more background on how it works and what it is, then I think that would have kind of helped a lot of people.
That's the bias of Anakin's perspective.
They do that, exactly.
That's the bias of getting it from Anakin's perspective. And I totally understand where you're coming from. I absolutely do. But that's because we consume the movies and the show from Anakin's perspective. We don't realize that other people get it and Anakin doesn't. We assume that everybody's going through the same struggle that Anakin is, but they all understand detachment. Anakin missed it, and he has replaced detachment with like a toxic version of stoicism. And so we assume that's what the other Jedi are doing, but that's not what's happening.
But there are a great deal of fallen Jedi, especially in that era of the Republic. There were a lot of them.
Yeah, so on that, I hate to make comparisons to religion, but it's inevitable, especially considering being Jedi is practically a religion. It is in real life, because you can actually put that on your dog tag. But
you can put them right
I see the Jedi. Yeah, there you go. So the Jedi, to me, it reminds me a lot of, and you've also made this point, Chaco, about how people make this kind of comparison, but it's because it's kind of true when you look at it. It's like a lot like the kind of Catholic Church. So you always hear these stories. I've known people actually have gone through that, where you're put in such a kind of constrained environment, and sure, they might teach it to you certain things as far as like detachment or something along those same lines, or in the idea of abstinence and stuff like that. When you try and force a certain ideal or give somebody to strictly stick to that without a proper teaching, sometimes you kind of push people towards that. So exactly to your point, there were a lot of people that were kind of falling, and I don't blame necessarily the Jedi Order for that. But like if we're talking about like what we would change or how we would do things differently, I do feel like if people were allowed to form some kind of attachment, but then be able to understand how not to get too attached, so to speak. And I know, yes,
that is a switch. Attachment means you can't let it go. Attachment means you're the creepy stalker ex. Well, attachment means the person has been unconscious for 3 months and you can't flick the switch and let them die. Well, attachment means you can't let them go. Having a little bit of attachment means you can't let them go. If you can let them go, it's not attachment. That's what attachment means.
No,
that's what I mean. No. So you can still hold on to somebody. Like if you can care for somebody, I don't see as strongly caring for somebody as a weakness. And we'll get into that because I think we are going to try at least touch on episode 6. But that's a perfect example.
You're allowed to do that. You're allowed to love. You're allowed to have friendship. You just can't be toxic. Like that's detachment.
And Yoda does that.
You know what's amazing?
Don't be afraid to lose them. Like have your relationships, but do not be afraid to lose them. Mourn them, do not, and miss them, do not. Now, I think that's a little extreme because it's a natural emotion when you have relationships with somebody, even amongst the council as colleagues. You will miss them when they are gone. That's just a natural reaction.
Yeah, I'm not saying you can't form that exactly. Maybe I'm not explaining.
Let's take that conversation really quickly. Let's take that conversation and split it into 2 parts. Because everybody always fixates on the second part, but let's split it into 2 parts. So the first part, mourn them not, miss them not, we luminous beings are we, all that stuff. And so Anakin has come to Yoda and said, Master Yoda, my friend was saying that he had this problem, and I need to know what advice to give him. And
for a friend, of course.
Right. And because like Anakin comes in and it's like he's obviously troubled, he's looking for advice, but he's not being honest. And so Yoda gives him a generic. This is the core of detachment.
He tries to help
friends. Love
your
friends.
Not debating that at all.
Right. Okay. Now, Anakin turns away from the conversation
because it's not the answer he wanted. No, I get that.
Yeah, but then that's the moment where Yoda goes. Because if we keep in mind, Jedi are all superpowered empaths. And so everybody can tell Anakin's got problems and Anakin won't talk about it, but they can't make him because that's not the Jedi way. Like if they put thumb screws to him to get him to talk, that's not, And so that's the moment where Yoda then does this thing where everybody's read on it is Yoda telling Anakin to suck it up. And it's like, no, Yoda's trying really, really hard. Like Yoda's got a lot of faith in Anakin, but he watches him going down this path and tries to give Anakin something to make him turn around and own up.
Real quick, this is like a slight side thing, but the latest High Republic book, Midnight Horizon, is so good. Like the whole core of the book is this topic, is attachment, is letting go. It tells a side story of one of Yoda's previous Padawans who made that choice to go and what that meant and all this stuff. And it is, oh my goodness, Julia Christine, Midnight Horizon is incredible. Read it. I was reading it and I was just like, God damn, like it's just hitting me in all kind of ways. So yeah, definitely recommend that. But no, I agree. In this scenario, we also have to consider what he was juggling, right? Because you have a person on one side saying, "Hey, man, if you do this, you can get all the power to do whatever you want," and then you have Yoda over here being like, "Well, let him go," I know it's interesting, but Kenny, you've been quiet.
I've been just listening, honestly, because from a non-narrative person like myself, who has not read any books outside of Dark Disciple, listening to those who have, and Alan, you're mean, like just straight up mean right now.
I just got a product placement. I haven't done anything yet.
Listening to not only about the Anakin Mace debate as a whole, but knowing that they're like how people's perspectives of these characters. Like I myself grew up throughout the prequel era, through my high school years. I grew up with Anakin. Like I could almost relate to him in a lot of ways. However, as a person who loves talking to older adults, who loves to know these experiences, watching Mace through that same process and then reading this book, getting a completely different perspective, changes your entire perspective overall as the character.
Makes sense.
Like I don't know how else to put it. So when I made my video slandering Mace's name, it was from like that straight up, what are you doing? You're a Jedi, not a general. And it goes back to the first movie that I just rewatched again for no good reason. To what Qui-Gon said.
It's a good movie.
It's a good movie. That's
no, it is a good movie. It is a great movie. But I just watched.
And this is why I love all of y'all, because like we could be vehemently opposed, but it's we still vibe, we still have a good time. No, I love it.
But it goes back to what Qui-Gon said to Padme, saying, "I'll protect you, but I will not fight a war for you." You're just like, okay, that's a man who understands his discipline, a man who understands his mandate. You see Mace throughout the movies and the TV shows almost following that same mandate. However, in the books are a completely different sets of circumstances.
Which is probably part of why it got axed as a Clone Wars storyline, is because of because the narrative role they needed Mace to play. And it sounds like it's jarringly outside of his other arc.
I'd actually
recommend, and that would have worked out.
I'd recommend reading it because I love that book.
I've already got it.
I've already feel like
no slander on Dark Disciple at all. Must read first book. If you've never read a book, read that book. It'll give you.
I read it on Audible and it was amazing. Perfect narrator for it. It was great.
Also, Benali earlier in the chat mentioned there is a Legends book called Shatterpoint, which I just went back through, and it is beautiful because it's very much Mace, but he like has this whole thing of like he feels personally responsible for all of this that happened in that book, because he should, if he could go back in time and kill Dooku when he had him dead to rights, that would have ended this conflict, but that was not the right choice to make. And he feels like all of these trillions of deaths that have happened since that moment are on me. And man, and I know it's tough altogether.
And that's why
I'm okay with him feeling that way. I'm perfectly okay with that.
Well, and
sorry, what was that, Kenny?
I said that's why it damn near killed me to make that video in the first place, because that was just to respond to how Mace would act. Why we shouldn't have him back in canon. He should remain dead.
Oh, yeah, he should remain dead. Absolutely.
If he came back, one of two scenarios would happen. There'd be no hands, ifs, or buts about it. One, he would become full dark side, or at least enough of the dark side where he wouldn't be a full Sith. Or he would be just this mopey individual. Kind of like a grumpy old man who has regrets.
I'd be okay with that, actually.
So you saying that, I was like, I would love to see him as like a librarian. So
you're saying he'd be kind of like Ram Koda then?
Yes.
I don't know if anybody's read Stormlight Archives, but he'd be like, I'm on board for Kaladin, like Mace Windu is Kaladin. I'm there. Anybody that's read Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson, Mace Windu is Kaladin. Let's make it happen. I like that better than Mace Windu is Punisher.
Hey,
it's a 1,000-page thing. You may not want to dive into it, depending on what your taste is. Sanderson's a very talented author, but
that's Master Allen. You were holding this color changing thing. It looked like it was better than the stick.
You talking about this? This is a Nightforge. This is the new with the Xenopixel, so you'll notice it like extends and stuff instead of just lighting up all at once. And this is guaranteed better than a stick. Although I do not recommend NeoPixel for dueling unless you are extremely wealthy. And can afford to buy tons of replacement plates. Not me either.
Not me.
I can't wait for my order.
I'm looking forward to in the Kenobi show is getting an answer to whether Kenobi practices like like a version of stoicism or suppression, or if he practices detachment. Because we know Yoda practices detachment. Like we see Yoda teach it, and we see Anakin not get it. I would love to know for sure about Kenobi, because we don't have enough information to know.
Well, what's one thing that's really interesting in the new book Midnight Horizon is there's a point that's brought up of detachment on the part of the master. We're always thinking about it through the eyes of the person, the student going through it, but it takes a lot to let that person go and do things that you're like, this is dumb. It's a bad idea. You're gonna be back. It's I think that's fascinating as well. But I would like to kind of run around real quick and kind of button up this part of the conversation of that, because I would love to hear. Everyone here has seen the most recent episode of Book of Boba Fett, yes?
I haven't. I'm gonna have to dip. I'm gonna watch it after
Wait,
we're
who
done.
hasn't
I'm
seen
looking
it?
forward to it. I've already been partially spoiled. But some of what I've been partially spoiled is also stuff that was set up by the previous episode pretty obviously. So like whatever.
Fair.
Damn it.
I
So,
so live with
when you are-
Star Wars
when you are a
Rise
parent-
and Angelo.
Like when you are a parent, you make a decision where it's like, okay, I'm not going to be able to watch stuff on the same timeline as everybody else, and you are either okay with that or you're not.
Well, it's been out less than 24 hours, so I don't
had
feel
to-
bad not talking about it.
I had to
Yeah.
watch it on my lunch break because of the fact that spoilers popped up. Thankfully, I only saw one spoiler and not one that would have hurt me a lot more.
I didn't
I
see
put my phone
Infinity
on
War
airplane
until it
mode
had been
all
on
day.
Blu-ray for a month.
Oof.
No,
You didn't see which one?
That must
I
have
didn't see
been rough.
Infinity War until it had been on Blu-ray for a month.
Dude, I watched that movie like 4 times in theaters. Are you kidding me?
It would have
How
been
you didn't get
awesome.
spoiled? Or
But-
did you get spoiled?
There's no way to not get spoiled at that point. Like if you're
Yeah,
on social
a movie
media,
that
you're
big,
gonna
there's
get
no way
spoiled.
not to get spoiled.
That's also
2 hours on social media, a brand new episode of any show, you're going to get spoiled right off the beat. It doesn't matter.
if you're
TV shows, I'll give a
if it's
spoiler
super
warning.
important to you to not get spoiled, then you take steps to not get spoiled.
Oh,
If
yeah.
it's like if it's like, no, this is the price. I've got other stuff that is a higher priority, because it's not, oh, I can't do that because I have thing. No, this other stuff is a priority, and that is more important to me. And so the cost of that is I'm going to get spoiled on some stuff, and that's I'm getting to actively make that choice for myself rather than describe it as something that's happening to me. And that's an important distinction I think some people don't make.
When I was dating my wife, I'd be like, "Oh man, this movie's coming out. I'm gonna grab some tickets for us to see it, like for a show." And she's like, "Oh, I can't make it. Can we go see it? On Saturday?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll get tickets. I'll get you a ticket for Saturday." And she's like, "Oh, will you wait for me?" And I'm like,
Yeah, exactly.
No,
No, babe,
no,
I'm
no,
gonna
no.
watch it tonight.
We'll
I will
see it.
rewatch it with you.
Yes, we will see it together on Saturday.
But I will be watching this movie.
Why you avoided the question? Why do you say it like that? Yeah, I'm gonna watch the movie. Like, you don't care enough that you have to be with me on my first time. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't add to your experience.
And same thing. Like it's a conscious choice. Like that's like, and then it's something that you are choosing. It's not something that's happening to you. And that also for anybody that's watching, anybody that's listening, if one of the things about Anakin that you connect with is him feeling out of control and without agency in his life, because a lot of Anakin's story is him feeling like he doesn't have a better choice than the choice that he makes. And so Anakin very much feels like the world is happening to him, but we as the audience can look at it and be like, no, man, there are all these avenues that were open to you. You just didn't realize they were there.
Dumb.
So it also that's, again, it comes back to it not being an excuse. To not get too deep and personal, I've been through a lot of trauma involving a lot of different things, and I would like to think I came out a decent, at least decent human being. I did not let those things that happened be an excuse for improper or even negative actions. I sometimes, sure, you can sit there and be like, I feel like the world's against me, but then okay, so then what are you gonna do about it? Are you just gonna sit there and like lash out at the world? Are you just gonna sit there and just accept it, or are you gonna do something about it? Are you gonna do something positive? Are you gonna go try and make a kind of difference? Rather than that's what it comes down to.
And I think that's why the Clone Wars portrayal of Obi-Wan was extremely important, because we got to see someone lose their master. He didn't have a childhood. He was held back by his master. He was a Padawan at 25. It was unheard of. And Qui-Gon took so long to allow him to use a different lightsaber, like go beyond the basic forms. He's like, just let me do something else.
He watched the love of his life
expire
in front of him.
Yeah,
that's not a lie.
That part though is one thing I will say about Qui-Gon training Anakin versus Obi-Wan is, yes, Qui-Gon I think would have been a better mentor because he was the father figure that I think Anakin needed, but at the same time he was very like, no, master these first, like get this down and then you can move on. And Anakin's impatience would have been really tested doing that.
Navy SEALs have a very specific way they make their bed, because that's the easiest thing you're going to do that day. And if you can't handle that shit, this is the wrong job for you.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. And then, Joe Christine, read Master and Apprentice, the short story. Yes, read the novel Master and Apprentice by Claudia Gray, but Claudia Gray also wrote a short story called Master and Apprentice in and from a certain point of view, and it is beautiful, and you will cry, and I will hug you. That's all I can say. It is
canon. That novel. I bought it a couple weeks ago, and I haven't finished it.
Okay.
Before I clear out to let you guys talk episode 6, and so that I can watch episode 6, I have spent a lot of time, because I spent a lot of time dunking on Anakin the last week and a half. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how it's different if it's Qui-Gon, because there are a whole bunch of Anakin's behaviors that we see that are very separate from Kenobi. Like they are a combination of Palpatine grooming him and some other stuff. And so how is it different with Qui-Gon? And like, so Yoda's incredibly.
I got the answer.
I've got two that I like that are both good. Yoda's incredibly patient with Anakin. Kenobi's incredibly patient with Anakin. I think Qui-Gon grabs Anakin by the ears at some point and says, "Listen, you little shit. Either tell me the truth or leave the order. But pick one, because I'm done. I have waited for you to tell me what's going on. I have tried every cue that we have established for you to tell me what's going on, and you still haven't told me what's going on. So this is it. This is your chance. Own up or walk out."
He would have been the in between Mason and Anakin, or not Anakin, Mason Obi-Wan. He would have been that nice in between.
I love how you said it, because there's this feeling I get that was like, no, Qui-Gon was this hippie and he would have let Anakin get away with everything, and that's like no, Qui-Gon,
you got the wrong one.
Qui-Gon would have been all up on that ass
all the time, but he owned it.
Yeah,
like that's the difference between Qui-Gon and Anakin. Is it's like Qui-Gon's like, yep, this is what I did. There are consequences, but it was the right thing. I stand by my choice. Like, because he was an adult, he made adult decisions.
Yeah,
and then took.
The Queen wouldn't approve. Queen's not here. Suck it.
I'm in charge here, guys. Deal with it.
The other option is I think Qui-Gon would have double tapped on Mustafar, and then that means that Ahsoka would have been Kenobi's Padawan, which I would have loved to see. I would have loved to see.
Cool.
And then that also means that Yoda, Kenobi, and Ahsoka would have been the ones that went to face Palpatine, and that fight would have been really awesome. It would have been short, but it would have been really awesome.
my reasoning behind it is if Qui-Gon's in the picture, he's calling Palpatine out on his crap, and Palpatine's not hanging out unsupervised. Like if you read the Anakin and Obi-Wan comic, Palpatine's like, I'm a senator, so I'm going to take this young boy out to a nightclub, and you're like, what the hell is this? That happens.
Qui-Gon's
in
like,
that comic.
No, you're not. It does. Twice. It happens twice, if I remember right.
Yeah, they get in a bar fight. It's weird. It's a weird.
Palpatine's like, no, I gotta go. Like, are you grooming this kid? Like, there's gotta be rules about this, right? Like, so to the topic of Qui-Gon Jinn, though, he would have had more tough love, but I think it would have been more of a fatherly role, that he would have earned the respect of that fatherly figure more than Obi-Wan did, because Palpatine kind of filled that role of like, the kind uncle, the person he kind of lean on as a superior figure. Whereas
but
Obi-Wan was
Palpatine would
always
tell him what
more
he
of
wants
like a
to
bigger
hear.
brother.
So what?
It's true.
Like that's part of why he turns towards Palpatine. And so I agree with you, but that's the like I still feel like Palpatine would have had a draw because Qui-Gon would have told Anakin all kinds of stuff Anakin didn't want to hear. And Palpatine would have continued to be, it's like, oh no, come on,
good cop, bad cop type of thing.
He would,
a little bit of heroin. Like
Qui-Gon's telling you what you need to hear. Palpatine's telling you what you want to hear.
Yeah,
he would still be the draw, but do you think that the reason why it was so easy is because of the lack of a proper father figure in his life?
Mm-hmm. I 100% do. I really do.
Master Allen.
I would say not necessarily the lack of a father figure, but like the need of something more validating, right? Because like if he stayed on Tatooine, he wouldn't have had a father figure still. You know what I mean? Unless you count Watto. But
Anakin Skywalker, the car salesman.
Yeah.
or like he would have been muscle for Jabba.
No, he would have been. He still would have been a slave, but he would have been a racer, and they would
That's
have
what I was thinking. I would think he would
race forever. But he would never earn his freedom, and they would just make tons of money on him, and it would be super sad. I'm making myself sad, but right now.
Well, don't do that.
But let's let's
I'm
actually
let you guys know.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's actually have everyone go around and give their where we can find you and your awesome content, and then we'll let Master Allen go so he can watch it, and then we'll do a brief go around after that on the on Book of Boba Fett. So yeah, we'll start with Master Allen. Where can we find you and your awesome content?
All right, so I am on TikTok as Level Up Light 1 and my backup account Level Up Light 2 because I have the creativity that God gave this particular lightsaber. At some point, if you see Level Up Light 3, it might be me. But I am the purveyor of lightsabers, guaranteed better than a stick. I recently went viral for that again by accident, which was a very surreal week.
Hell yeah.
If you are in the market for a lightsaber, I know my friend Chaco has got something he is going to pitch to his followers here in just a little bit to get feedback from people before he makes an investment in some joy and happiness for his existence. I am also on Instagram. I don't remember my Instagram handle. I'm trying to get better at Instagram. I have willfully ignored Twitter.
Be thankful.
I might have a Twitter somewhere, but I forget.
That was a very conscious choice. After 3 months of being on Twitter, I was just like, no, it's okay. I'm good. This is not the social media for me. I like to smile. I like to not be angry about things. This is not where I belong.
I joined for the Ryan Reynolds memes.
That's a good reason. Solid reason. But yeah, that's kind of everything. And so if you have a favorite creator, like for example, Darchaco, who has an affiliate link for Level Up Lightsaber, if you're intending to buy a lightsaber, buy from their link instead of buying from my link, because then it helps support their channel and helps support their content. And that is something really cool that I am glad that I get to do, because this is a side hustle and it's a lot of fun. And I get to do it the way I want to do it. It's a side hustle instead of being how I feed my family. And so like I can draw lines in the sand about all kinds of stuff and just be like, yeah, we'll do it this way. It's fine. Which is exciting. So
yeah, certainly always appreciate you.
I do need to get a better than a stick from you though. I need it. I need one. Like I bought a cheap Amazon one for a video, and I need to get one of yours.
They're just not satisfying. It's like, especially if it's the one that's got like the 7/8 inch blade, because like it seems like it's gonna be fine, then it gets there and it's like, man, this is a toothpick.
Yeah.
What is this, Rebels? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Coyote, where can we find you and your stuff, your content?
Primarily I'm on TikTok as Coyote 1701. So 1701, like the whole number of the Enterprise in Star Trek. But I do mostly Star Wars content now. I started off doing like Marvel stuff, but I've found myself liking the Star Wars side of things a little more. It's a little less of a headache, and it's just more enjoyable for me.
I don't think I'm following you yet, and I'm about to fix that.
That just means you haven't been here long enough. because nobody hates Star Wars more than Star Wars.
No, trust me, I've been on the worst side of all three fandoms: Star Wars, DC, and Marvel. And Star Wars so far, the most I have to worry about is sequel haters and Darth Maul fans, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I feel like
the Darth Maul standboys.
Darth Maul,
the entire point of the character.
Itachi, Batman, same fans.
Don't get me. I'm not
of
getting
pancakes.
Yes, they're terrible.
Yeah. How about you, Darthman?
TikTok guys, Star Wars and Marvel content all the time. I will throw a few things here and there, like I did 3 videos for Halo, for the Halo trailer that just dropped. Cannot wait.
Oh,
but remember Friday, 12 p.m. or 12 in the afternoon, I'll be doing my first live talking about also Chapter 6. I'll be making notes and a few other things about things that I like, things that I didn't like, the whole 9 yards. Just make sure you follow me, and hopefully I'll see you guys there.
Awesome. And last but not least, Anthony.
You can find me predominantly on TikTok, like I said before, Ready Comics Roll. That's the same across everything. Also find me on YouTube. I swear I will get back to Star Wars content, especially the Star Wars cosplay, eventually. But for now, if you enjoy horror and comedy, I think you'll really enjoy slasher sports. So you might enjoy either of those bits of content that I create on there.
Awesome. I love it. And I know it feels weird for me to have you guys do that when we have another topic, but I'm just going to cut that and then put it at the end of this again, and then cut the previous topic, so it's a podcast, and then our thoughts on Book of Boba Fett. So let them rip. Full spoilers, everyone in the chat. Hopefully you have seen it if you're still hanging around. Full sail. Yeah, what was that, Kenny?
2 words. Cad Bane. Done.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah.
What?
I was really surprised. I was really surprised about that, because I was sitting here thinking that Cad Bane is like 80 by now, but I looked into he's actually like 50, so he's well within his lifespan. I thought this had been well past his lifespan. It's not. He's 50 years old.
Good God.
He just has old guy energy when we first see him, because you got a point, because he starts off during we first meet him during the Clone Wars, which was
when Boba Fett's like 12 years old.
Yeah. So however, yeah.
Very Clint Eastwood. Very Clint Eastwood.
Oh, I was getting more of a Doc Holliday more than I was Clint.
Now, Doc Holliday's the marshal that got shot. Didn't die, but got shot.
So that was the big thing. A lot of people were really scared. Even I was seeing Cobb Vanth take that shot. So I had to watch it back in denial, and then seeing it in slow-mo, I'm like, no, that was more like a shoulder shot. Like that was a professional
he shot him, like
courtesy.
up here, and they went in there to like help him out.
He shot
also
the deputy.
He did shoot the sheriff, but he also shot the deputy.
he like that. They slowed down the shot so you can see that it hit him in the shoulder, and then he just murked the deputy. He just
like
that was
he's already dead.
An unnecessary amount of shots
right in the
into him. That was a message.
Unnecessary roughness.
Oh yeah. Play. But notice how they're all like, they all go to the marshal to see if he's okay, and everyone's like, yeah, no, he's dead. Forget the deputy, he's dead. Go to the marshal.
That was the part I was kind of. I laughed when I saw it because of the dialogue. The dialogue was meant to let us know he's still alive, and people were like, "There's something wrong with the deputy," or there's something wrong with the sheriff, and you're like,
"He got shot.
He was shot. We saw it.
Yeah. We know what's wrong with him. Like,
there's something wrong."
I just love the
get
moment.
The healing crystals. And you're like,
I just love the moment though when he's like, "Oh, you shouldn't trust Boba Fett because he worked with the Empire," and I'm like, "So did you?
So did you?
Empire, the Hutt, pick a gang, any gang,
all of them, the Pikes, the freaking Black Sun, all of them."
And everyone in the chat, give us your thoughts. Go all out.
I will say one thing right now, if you don't mind. I'm happy we saw Cad Bane, but I was really hoping to see Valance. I'm not gonna lie.
I do love me some Valance. He has showed that he does have a little bit of a heart of gold somewhere in there.
He
you know?
does. So
And
for those that don't know who that
Yeah.
is, Beeler Valance is a bounty hunter that has fought against and alongside Boba Fett in the comics and various external media, and he's basically like a cyborg. So he was a grunt or a pilot for the Empire, and then once he got blown up, he became a grunt. After he got rebuilt, he became a grunt. Just
He's
like
almost more machine than man at this point.
stormtrooper. Yeah, he is. And then eventually he got blown up again, and the Empire's like, "Yo, like, thank you for your service, but you're done. Like, there's nothing for you here. We're not gonna keep doing this over and over again." So
we can
they
rebuild
cut
him.
him out.
We have the technology.
Yeah.
We can rebuild him again, but like, damn it, it's
But at what cost? He's
They're so expensive. They're so expensive. But he eventually he gets mad at the Empire and he becomes a bounty hunter. And since he's more cybernetic than human, he has, his limbs attached with like a hand cannon built into his hand, and his eyes are increased, his brain is increased, his stamina and strength. All that is very cybernetic. So he's a very, very good bounty hunter. And he's worked with Black Chrysanthemum, he's worked with Boba Fett, Cad Bane, a lot of others.
The way this is playing out, this definitely feels a lot like, War of the Bounty Hunters. I would feel like we are
That's
probably
what I'm
going to be
reading right
seeing more appearances. I think we are going to be getting more bounty hunters before the show ends. Maybe not a whole lot, but I think we're not done with the cameos yet. But
No.
I'll buy that from Imbo. That's all I care about right now.
love
Yeah.
and hate you, Filoni, for this episode, though.
If Emma's on the wrong side, my heart's gonna be broken though.
One more thing I want to point out though. I love this episode. I love the last episode. I don't think it's fair that they are hijacking Boba Fett's series to have a world building episode. Because that's what it's a world building episode. It's bringing it all together, and they're hijacking his show to do it.
Yeah, can you go ahead?
I was going to say episode 5 was wrong for me. I love the episode. 100% love it. Every bit of that episode was freaking God. It was awesome, but we all know what it was for. It was for Mando season 3.
Mandalorian season 3, episode 1. Yeah.
However, this episode 6, was structured in such a beautiful way that, yes, it continued on with Din's story, at least to a certain degree, but it felt like it was building up more in the Boba Fett's favor. From outside of that first, 20, 30 minutes where we got with Din and Grogu and all that, the rest of the episode was nothing but setting up the entire storyline for Boba Fett towards the end.
Yeah.
It was beautifully structured. This episode should have been last episode.
And it's funny though, because it's the same amount of time as every other episode, but don't tell me this didn't feel like such a long, in a good way, long episode compared to the other ones. Now, I don't know. I feel like I see there's quite a few people I know from all walks of favoritism of different eras. Mostly it's the OT era fans that really don't seem to be liking Book of Boba Fett. I personally, even being a OT fan, like growing up with the original trilogy, I love this. I love this because, and you've said this already in one of your TikToks, Chaco, it would be kind of boring to get the same show twice. I mean, The Mandalorian is the spaghetti western, all thriller, no filler. That's what you have that for. That's if you want the badass, like over the top craziness. That's what Book of Boba Fett established itself from the very beginning as a character story. It's meant to be more of and instead of an adventure of the week like it was with The Mandalorian, this is meant to really flesh out who Boba Fett was, who he is now, and how he kind of got there. And I really appreciate that, especially as somebody who loves lore and loves doing deep dives on lore. It has just given us so much throughout.
Also, consider this. I feel like, everyone, you like the sausage and don't want to see how it's made type of deal. Imagine if throughout all of Star Wars, instead of Jabba the Hutt, it was Boba Fett that was calling the shots, and you knew the guy that was calling all the shots could whoop any one of yours ass. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just think that's super cool. But I agree, and I kind of equate it to stunt food, where you have you have someone and they're like, this is a hamburger, and then they put pulled pork on it, and you're like, that's good. And then they put a fried egg on it, and you're like, that's good. And then they put bacon on it, and you're like, all right, that's a lot of stuff. And then
Man,
and then they put
breakfast yet. Calm down with the food.
yeah, and then they're like, and then they pour a bunch of melted cheese on it, and then they deep fry the whole thing, and you're like, all of these things are good things, but we may have too many things,
Yeah.
And I loved, as a lore person, I loved this episode and like the things that could come out of it and things that it means. But at the same time, I want more Luke, Grogu, Ahsoka. I want more of that, and I would have gotten more of it if it was separate.
Yeah,
it's to go back to food. It's like I got a sampler plate, and I only got a little taste of all these things. I'm like, no, I want a whole plate of this. You know what I mean? Like separate that. That's kind of how
it's Go ahead, Anthony. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to quickly say it's an obvious setup for season 3 of Mandalorian. We're probably going to get a lot more of that in there.
Well, there's also been a lot of hints at a potential Luke show, but
that's why personally I did not like episode 5, was because of that. It gave us so much away from Book of Boba Fett. Instead of just sticking to form, we diverged, and now we're getting TikTokers like, say, Straw Hat Goofy that I saw earlier today say, let's call it what it is. It's the Book of Mandalorian. Really?
And to that, I will say, damn it, I get it. Because to me, episode 5 is what you would get in a one-shot comic. Episode 5 100%. Was a one-shot comic that happens in between the seasons, in between the movies, to let you know how they got from here to there so they can start the story. But there's so many fans who are like, well, I mean, and it's true, because the books, comics, and things like that are not the most accessible things for most people. I know those of you who
Marvel
have read
Unlimited app has all of these. If you
true,
don't have the Marvel Unlimited app, you can get that.
But think about this. Think about, you guys read Dark Disciple. It's an amazing book. Think about how many people here are going. I know Anthony haven't read it, but hasn't read it. But I posted a video about Barriss Offee, and I keep getting these comments that are like, "Oh, I think Barriss and Ventress are going to show up, and they're going to do all this stuff," and I'm just like,
"Sweet summer child."
Yeah, it's awesome.
Should I tell
him? I mean, but I'm in this weird place where I actually think the books are the best part of Star Wars, personally. Join me.
The funny thing is like I finally got to buying. It's my first ever digital book, and it's the first book of the High Republic. And I really want to get into the High Republic. I just got to find the time to sit down and read it. Especially hearing what you and Element and a lot of other Star Wars content creators I've seen just talk about the High Republic. I've been excited for it since the announcement. I'm just like, I'm gonna get to it eventually.
So can I go back to episode 5 for a minute?
Yeah, well, real quick, I says they John Boyega to Boba Fett, and I'm actually going to top you and say they Boba Fetted Boba Fett.
They shot him into the narrative Sarlacc pit.
Boba Fett has become the Boba Fett of the Book of Boba Fett.
Damn.
But I think it's going to be. It's true, but I think we are going to get, or at least I'm hoping we're going to get this really good payoff in regards to all this setup now and lore of who Boba Fett is. I think everybody's going to get those badass moments, or this epic, again, almost Mandalorian-esque, all thriller, no filler that people have been wanting towards the end. And then, of course, we're going to get the obvious videos of this is what we should have got from the beginning.
Yeah, we'll see. I do have some thoughts, but before I get there, I want to hear what Coyote has to say about episode 5.
So, I agree with what you're saying with it being a one-shot comic episode. 100% agree. It was a great episode. It was definitely a fan episode. Like it gave us, Baker's Canyon again. It gave us Tatooine. It gave us all these cool, like it gave us the freaking fuel rod from A New Hope that Han Solo tried to stop the garbage compactor with. It gave us all these things that fans just love. And I felt like that was intentionally planned out because they knew that the pace of Boba Fett and how they were portraying it was going to make people fall off the bandwagon because it wasn't Mandalorian. And I feel like they planned that as a like, hey, let's use this episode to draw everyone back in and get their attention again and get the fans rolling. Does that make sense? Am I alone in this, or
you might be right. My only issue, like when people make these comparisons, is that unlike the movies, these things are shot already like many months ahead of time. They're already filmed, they're already completed and then released. But maybe that was the idea. Maybe that's the thought that they had behind it as they were making it. They're probably like, we should maybe do this too, just in case this happens, just in case the pacing's
just
not
to give
great.
them the big wham that everyone's looking for, type of thing.
But I don't think it was a last minute decision.
No,
and
no,
also we have Dave Filoni, is part of this creative process, and one of the things that he is very well aware of is that I'm so thankful for is that in a show you need to have stuff. Payoff is what keeps us coming back. Payoff is what we love. We love payoff. You can't start a show with payoff. That's not possible. You know what I mean? Like, you have to set things up. You can give us cheap payoffs, or you can craft this narrative that will give us dividends later. They gave us Ahsoka. Everyone hated Ahsoka more than anything, like on the planet. It's the Star Wars fandom is kind of weird because I was on the Force.net at these times. Everyone hated Mara Jade when she came out because she was a Mary Sue. And then they hated Ahsoka when she was a Mary Sue. And then my favorite character has always been Jaina Solo. And when Mara Jade died, they hated Jaina because she was starting to become too much like Mara. It's just been this repeating cycle in my life, and that's kind of what informs my position on it. Of like, God damn it, like get a new shtick. Like, come on, dude. But I feel like he understands. Like the reason we were getting flashbacks rather than a narrative of him with the Tuskens and all this, that would have been too slow paced for everyone. We needed to see past and present, and when this finishes paying off, I think we're going to be in this interesting place where now we have a setup for basically a mall kiosk of the most badass bounty hunters because everyone's going to want to work for this one guy.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is
cabal.
I think this is the setup. And also, prediction for next episode, Cad Bane killed all the sand people. And just used those people's marking. He's been under contract for them for a while, I think, and has been doing what he can to spread their influence and take down local people that would just stop it. And Cad Bane was what I was waiting for this entire time. I've been like, who is the villain? Who is the guy that is going to be satisfying when Boba Fett fights that guy? That hasn't been a thing this entire. And we're just like, where's the person? If he beats up that one random Pike that we saw in episode 3, doesn't mean anything. That's not a triumph. But so now we have it.
That's why I agree with you, because originally I was thinking it was the Pike. Well, it was almost kind of obvious that it was the Pikes that were the ones really behind the Tusken's demise. But to your point, that actually makes the most narrative sense and would be fantastic because, especially, I'm going to say what I'm pretty sure all of us are thinking, we're going to get that Clone Wars deleted scene in live action. I'm almost more than sure of it, where we're going to get that showdown between Cad Bane and Boba Fett, and it will be that payoff that we want. And I think really to push Boba to that point, it needs to be Cad Bane who did it. It needs to be.
I'm also going to say they're going to subvert our expectations, and Cad Bane is going to beat Boba in that a fight, and then the Rancor is gonna grab him or something.
That would be hilarious. And I would be all
I'm
for it.
waiting for the scene that Boba Fett comes out of his palace riding the Rancor, just like the old Mandalorians that would ride the Mythosaurs. I'm waiting for that scene.
I love Rancors. Rancors are my second favorite, like, actually my first favorite alien animal species. I was gonna say Ewoks, but Ewoks are far more
They're sentient.
Exactly.
As a huge Legends fan, I love Nexu, and Elena, Jason Solo's daughter, like bonded with a little Nexu pup, and so it grew up with her, and that was just the coolest thought. Anyways, it's a side thought. All right. So what do you guys think of all the because we haven't really talked much about Luke Ahsoka, so I want to hear your guys' thoughts on Luke Ahsoka, on the flashback scene, and then finally, Grogu has two choices. Which is he going to choose? And is Luke a dick for making him choose?
I would like to go first just because my kids are starting to act up. So I'm going to have to jump off, unfortunately. I'm so sorry, guys.
Okay,
So,
yeah. Go ahead and go. This will be our last round, and then we'll go.
Okay,
close it up. Go ahead.
The Luke and Ahsoka thing blew my mind. Finally answered everybody's question. Did Ahsoka and Luke meet at any single point in time? Genius.
Yes.
Genius. Plain and simple. The flashback scene, at first, I really was thinking we were going to get some small hint of the Yoda species. No, we went straight to Dave Filoni throwing in a 66 order. Like, really?
For the umpteenth time.
Right?
That's like his trademark now.
But one thing about that scene, though, that I loved was that the Jedi Master in the center, I think I recognize him. And that's that one in the bombing episode in Clone Wars. The one who was right there on the steps trying to keep the crowd apart from everything.
I'll have to relook him up. To me, he looked like Sindralig, and I don't know if that's the same person or not, but Sindralig also died to Vader. So I thought it might be a retcon, but there was another retcon in this episode. Yoda's lightsaber was destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
He could have crafted another one or whatever, but yeah, I will look that up. That sounds very
right. That I saw that and I'm like, I think that's that Jedi. I couldn't remember his name off the top of my head, but I'm like, that's got to be him.
I gotta watch it now because I gotta look at who you're talking about.
Awesome.
Like I was watching the scene, but I wasn't looking his face in the short time that it showed.
Oh, it was more of his aesthetic than it was his face. Like he had that long ponytail that he had, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
You didn't get to see much of their features.
Mm-hmm. But the last thing, I think Grogu is going to choose the chainmail. Mm-hmm. He is going to choose Mandalorian. And then in true Grogu fashion, steal Yoda's lightsaber.
He's going to go, blah! And it turns out he ate it like a long time ago.
Yeah.
So the funny thing about that, and this is why I wish Master Allen was still here, because this goes into my earlier point, but I didn't want to say it out of fear of potentially spoiling anything. But it goes back to my thing about, attachment, and why I feel like sometimes they might be a little too strict on that, to where he's forcing him to make that decision. All right, choose the Beskar chainmail and be with Din, or I can give you this sweet lightsaber that used to be my master's, and you can be part of the Jedi Order, but you can't pick both. I feel like
he gave him a choice.
He did.
He gave him a choice.
He did. That absolutely. And that's why I said I never think of the Jedi Order as this restrictive force, like some people are. Whether they straight up kidnap children, as it's even kind of said. I don't think it's that bad, but like even like when Ahsoka was talking to Din, because there was also that moment, like, is this for you or is this for him? Like, your attachment can get in the way of, his growth. But that's why I really like the episode before, when they're talking about, like, in episode 5, when they're talking about Mandalorians, where Mandalorians, they find strength in being together like that, and that attachment into that wholeness. And I kind of feel like if the Jedi Order were to be more accepting or integrate that more, who knows what can happen. But that's why I said I wish Master Allen was here to kind of speak on that, because I know he's very passionate about that. But it was great to see that and how that all played out. Seeing again, like Kenny pointed out, the interaction everybody was not expecting but finally got between Luke and Ahsoka, and seeing like I love seeing more of the growth of Luke. Luke is an ever-evolving character, and he's now in a role he's never been in before. He went from being the student to the teacher. He's being called master by somebody who has more experience than he has.
By two people. He has the least experience of anyone there.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to see him kind of fulfill this role and see his approach to kind of training and seeing him, evolve in that sense.
That's a really cool point, though. I didn't quite consider that, because it is, and I should have, because I always make this comparison, because Luke is King Arthur. You go from being the hero who pulled the sword out of the stone and getting some lessons from Merlin to becoming a king. That's a different job. You need to know different things to be successful at that job. It is not the same. So that is really cool. Your thoughts on that, Wiley?
Let me head out of here real quick. Wife's about to yell off with the kids.
All right.
Okay.
Sorry
Yeah,
about that, guys.
Hey, appreciate you coming on always. And
sir.
you're doing your first episode of your podcast on
Friday at noon.
Friday at noon.
Noon Eastern
Yeah,
time?
I know it's a little early, but it's right there in a good sweet spot for me when I get to work, where I can talk before I go to work.
What time zone are you in?
Central.
All right.
Okay. So 11 a.m. Eastern time, is that correct?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. So noon Central time. Okay, got it. I will adjust my clock, so I'm like 10 hours off from that, I think. So I'll see if I can make that.
Awesome.
Yeah, because
All right,
I'm
man.
definitely,
Well, it's good talking to you, man.
deep diving into this episode. This episode was amazing.
Yeah.
But
too good.
right. But thank you guys. Thank you, Chaco, Coyote, Anthony. Later, guys. Have a good night.
Have a good one, sir.
Have a good one. And we'll get your thoughts, Coyote, and then we'll do our ending here as well. Go ahead.
So I do want to talk a few things here. One, what you said, Anthony, about his growth. So if we look at Luke in, what was it? Not Rise of Skywalker, not Force Awakens, the other one.
The Last Jedi?
The Last Jedi, thank you. So if we look at his dialogue with Rey, right, and you see that he kind of sympathizes with Anakin's perspective, like Nightfall Vader, if you will, his perspective when he says the Jedi are evil. He sees that as, the Jedi weren't evil themselves inherently, but their power and their lust for power and just how powerful they were invited conflict and invited people to step up their game to match what they are, like the nuclear problem, right? So this person has a nuke, so I need a nuke. They have this many things, so I need this many things to combat that. So it keeps pushing everyone above where they really need to be, I guess you could say, to rival that higher power. So you have all these superpowers fighting for supremacy, and so many people die in the crosshairs of that. Look at the Separatist Wars, the Clone Wars. So many people died in the wake of that. And it wasn't the Jedi's fault, but were the Jedi not as involved and not as prominent as they were, and not as stagnant, if you will, as they were, because they got comfortable with their power, were they not in that position, that may not have happened. So he understands that aspect, and that's why he kind of like secludes himself. And we see him going from, hey, this is what the Jedi are, when he's getting trained by Luke, and we see that in Jedi, and now we're seeing this middle ground of, I'm not going to be exactly what the Jedi Council was, but I'm going to be more me, but still very Jedi. I'm not going to say you can't do this because you're here now. You can't have that because it's attachment. It's bad. I'm going to give you the choice. So I feel like we're seeing that progression of how Luke kind of evolves, and to me, it makes a lot more sense to him as a character to give him the choice. Now, I think he's kind of a jackwagon for making him choose, but make him choose it, like making that be a choice between one or the other. But I get why he's doing that, and I think that kind of speaks to the character of Luke, in my mind, anyway.
It is because he's
I can tell,
still
Chaco, you're thinking something different, but
he's new to this though, so I can see that perspective.
Well,
he's learning how to be a master, how to be in charge of people, how to train.
we also got a little bit of a hint at this in the previous episode, though, because when the armorer tells him, like, "Oh, the Jedi teach not being attached," Din's like, "That's the exact opposite of the creed."
Mm-hmm.
And I think I actually consider it a kindness. I've seen takes where people are like, "Oh, it's rude, it's mean because he's a baby or whatever." And I'm like, he's 50.
He's 50.
And you're like, yeah, and you're like, and that's the other thing is like, I don't want to like be ableist, but the fact that he's nonverbal leaves me no ability. He's nonverbal, but he's 50, but he's an adorable baby that grows slowly. So I have no idea where to place him cognitively. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen him like messing with wires and trying to help, and then also shock himself. I've seen
like
him
toddler.
figure out
him
cool
as toddler
stuff.
age.
He's still a little kid. He's 50, but it's because his species just ages slower, and I think they age slower in every respect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I view it as a kindness, because if his heart's not in it, if his heart is with Din, he can't. It's worse. It is worse than a waste of time for him to train in the opposite direction. You know what I mean? For him to teach him all of the exact opposite things that he needs to know to succeed in their society. I say, because Mandalorian society is just random.
Dude, I mean, different sects
you
have
three
different
factions,
creeds.
so,
And...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
I would
there's
ask you
three
to
factions that
explain
we
that,
fully know of. Explain which part.
So the stark contrast. So why can they not coexist? I understand the methodology is different, but why can they not coexist?
And there may be a way. There a middle ground may be forged at some point in time, but neither teachers, I mean, no one in Star Wars has watched Star Wars before, so neither teachers could possibly see a way to commingle these two ideologies. But this one is all about. And by the way, this is also kind of covered in Rebels. This is one of the reasons why Sabine had trouble wielding the Darksaber, and that's why Din has it, because all of these things are weapons. He's not working with the Darksaber. They are super attached to one another, and their bond is this unbreakable forge that is what gives them their power and their strength. They're led by houses and families, and those connections. Like, that is at the very core of Mandalorian culture. Versus family identity means nothing to the Jedi. It is quite the opposite. I do feel like he was kind of leading, where he's like, "Do you want the shirt and you'll look like one of the village people, or you want this sick ass sword?" Like, and you're like,
laser sword or jingle jingle? Which one do you want?
Yeah,
He's a kid. Well, that's a difficult choice then, because the sword is shiny.
You want to look like a hobbit,
I'm telling you, I called that last episode. It was going to be a photo bag and shirt of Beskar.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you see the chains as it's getting built. But...
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be a Cuban chain, and it's just going to be like
2 chains. My thing is, though, like, I don't see why they can't coexist. Now, that the methodologies themselves are opposite, yes, but they can be compromised to fit both of their needs. Because he's a child. He needs somebody with him, and he feels familiar with Din Djarin, and he is going to pick the Beskar because Din is going to wield the Darksaber. I feel like we know that, and Din Djarin needs Grogu to be able to wield the Darksaber. He needs him back in his life to have that kind of have his thoughts not distracted the way they are and dwelling on something else. He feels whole again with Grogu there, his foundling. So he will have again control of his emotions, therefore the Darksaber.
Star Wars needs to take the page out of Cobra Kai.
Yeah, but like
I haven't seen it. Theory's been
and...
asked me to watch Cobra Kai. I haven't watched it yet.
Do it, but sorry, go back. Wiley.
I don't see why things like loyalty and friendship cannot be adapted into the Jedi way and be taught, but also like understand that you can have friends and people that you look up to and people that you can enjoy being with, but you have to be prepared to lose them. You have to be prepared to understand that when they die, they don't just poof go away. They go into the Force. They go into this other realm. They're not just gone. Rejoice in the time that you have with them. And a lot of cultures do that. Rejoice in the time you have with them and celebrate their life, but don't sit there and lose yourself in mourning them. Find that balance there.
I actually think a lot of that is a fan misconception, though, because there's a lot of the dogma behind letting go that is not stated in any of the films. That, you know, a lot of people even go so far as to say it means you can have no emotions or anything whatsoever. But Anakin even explains it in Attack of the Clones of saying we're actually encouraged to love. Yeah. And it's exactly what you're, and it's one of the great things about the High Republic is they actually dive into the subject really deeply when they're like,
but I had things to read beforehand.
Yeah, but they straight up say, like, one person's like, I feel like I'm a ball of attachments. I love all these people and my friends. And then she gets asked, like, okay, but if you had to sacrifice your friendship or your relationship with them, but you knew that they would be safe forever because of it, would you do it? Just like, yeah, absolutely. Like, okay, if there was an enemy of yours and you had a chance to save them, would you save them? Yes, absolutely. Then those aren't attachments. The attachment is when you can't do those because of your feelings. You know what I mean? And I actually thought Din in that last episode was like, he might be a good Jedi because Ahsoka asked, like, are you doing this for him or are you doing this for you? And he's like, oh, damn, this is for me.
Yeah, which is why he gave up the chain. That was the better option. That was a very mature and understanding take.
But if anyone could make the best decision, it'd be Grogu, because he could straight up train with Luke Skywalker, outlive him, and then go become the best Mandalorian, and then go become the best slicer, and then the best smuggler, and then in 400 years come back and be like, all right, that's called mid-maxing. Like, you know, like, now let's get the game started.
Most well-rounded Jedi in existence.
Absolutely. And I hope he ends up being the future of the franchise. I think that would be super cool because he can live well beyond. I mean, at some point he has to leave because Disney is not going to let him die with Luke's temple.
No, and that's why it's also why I think he chooses the Beskar, because this is before Ben Solo's time, albeit slightly. But if Grogu chose to stay at this point, and I talked about this in my last live with Fives and Sith Lord, that if Grogu had chose to stay at this point in time, he would still be at the temple in, 20 years, 21 years, or no, like 18 years, when Ben Solo burns it to the ground. He would still be at the temple at that time, attending the academy.
He was literally just handed the plot armor, so that's exactly it. He's gonna have the Beskar chainmail. He's gonna get slashed by Ben. Ben's gonna think that he's, offed him, but it's like rips off shirt, reveals Beskar chainmail.
Frodo Baggins
and abs.
Lord of the Rings.
He's just ripped.
He's really been working on his core. Like Disney just literally just gave the whole joke about the Chekhov's gun. Well, the Beskar armor feels like it's the Chekhov's gun. That's how he survives the sacking of the temple. If he doesn't
if he chooses the armor, then he can't. He's not at the temple.
Unpopular opinion. I feel like I almost feel like they're giving Din too much. You can't have the Beskar
I do
armor
too.
and the Darksaber and the coolest ship that's also the fastest, and you're the best fighter and the best pilot.
He's such
You
a
like
Mace too. He's such a Mace too.
you gotta leave something for someone else. You know what I mean? Like I have a sword
Yeah.
that can cut through anything, but armor that can't be cut. And can your sword cut your armor? No, but it may eventually. But like, don't worry about it.
This definitely sounds like that
It's
one
like when you get
person
the
in a D&D
Dragonborn
table.
sword and armor in Skyrim. It's like when you get all that, you're untouchable.
It feels like me when I was 12. I was like, that was the character I made up. You know.
We've all done it.
But awesome. All right, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me for so long. This is way longer than most of my podcasts. This is the second longest. The first longest was talking about the Clone Wars. We went for like
that can take years.
Dude, we went almost 3 hours, and then we ended, and then we talked offline for like 2 hours. So, but yeah, thank you guys so much for joining. If you want to just have anything you guys want to plug or anything like that, and then we'll just go ahead and wrap up. I'll go to Anthony first.
I feel like I'm just beating a dead horse at this point. If you're not already following me on TikTok, please follow me. I really feel like it'll be worth your while. I have a variety of content, again, focusing a little bit more on horror comedy because that's what a lot of people seem to enjoy. But I mean, I have Dragon Age, Star Wars, Fallout, a lot of really geeky stuff. That's kind of what Ready Comics Roll and I'm all about. And of course, thanks for having me on here. This has been an absolute blast. It always is, and I always enjoy trying to watch the podcast when I have the opportunity as well.
I appreciate you coming on. And Coyote?
I want to make one last closing thing before we depart, and one last topic of discussion. the armor in episode 5. I've always wondered why her helmet looks different, and it came to me, and somebody made a video about this. I forget who it was, but her helmet looks oddly similar to the helmets that previously wore under Darth Maul with the horns, because she's the only one with the horns. The only other time we've seen the horns is under Darth Maul. I think that's kind of like alluding to her being a future antagonist, whether that be season 3 of Mandalorian or whatever the case may be. Her and the Children of the Watch. That part has kind of stuck out to me the whole time, and I haven't been able to pinpoint why until I think now.
I mean, they did call him an apostate. They did call him apostate, and they did seem to be kind of slightly aggressive towards him once he revealed he took off his helmet.
Yeah.
I feel like there's been so much Mandalorian on Mandalorian crime.
Oh yeah.
But no, you're definitely not wrong. You're definitely not wrong. And then where can we find your content?
Coyote 1701 on TikTok. That's where I pretty much exclusively have my content. I do have an Instagram, but I don't really get on it very much. But yeah, mostly Star Wars, a little bit of Marvel here and there, a little bit of odd and nerd stuff. But I do have my own business, if you don't mind. Coyote One Concealment. I make plastic personal carrying devices for wireless hole punchers. If that makes sense to anybody. I'm not sure what the guidelines are when it comes to Freedom Seeds on this app is, or what this website is. But I do make holsters. I have a TikTok page about that also. But yeah, Shaka, I appreciate you having me on. I know I've been wanting to get on live for you for a hot minute now, and I'm glad I finally got a chance to. It's taken long enough, but I'm glad I got a chance to.
I'm happy you could join. I appreciate it, and I appreciate everyone who is still listening, either live in chat right now or in the future. Just checking out our thoughts. I'm going to separate into a big video and then a short video of us talking about this. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Everyone should follow both of you guys. I really appreciate